Really enjoyed your Battlefield 3 video this week, thank you. Always solid work. After hearing a short story about Tom, what was your most memorable show you attended? Doesn't have to be good or bad, just the one you remember best. So yeah, in the Battlefield 3 video, we were talking about how Tom went to see Battlefield 4 before the consoles were out. Yeah. We had no idea what the HDMI capabilities of these consoles were, whether there was content protection on it as per PS3. So we basically sent Tom to DICE in Sweden, armed with a complete standalone PC, multiple capture devices, multiple HDCP strippers, and hoped for the best. And it actually turned out that he didn't need any of that. The HDMIs were clean. But anyway, interesting question about our most memorable show. I was at the E3, which had the Konami disaster event in it, which I think, John, you and Audie did a kind of commentary of that.
Exactly. That was pretty funny.
But that was also the E3 where, we just innocently attended the Xbox 360 media briefing. Then at the end, they just said, yes, and everybody here is going to get a new Xbox 360 Slim. It's like, okay. Mm-hmm. And they did actually make good on that promise. It wasn't just like the Americans. Everybody that was there got one. That was kind of memorable. And it's, in fact, the 360 that I used for those recent retro time capsules. John, favourite event? The one you remember the most?
Oh, man. It's got to be E3 2019. That was one of the best. Just so many things happened. Like, too many stories to share here, but just lots of random wild stuff getting in there.
Like,
well, there was some dinners that I attended with different groups, and some of the stories that came out of those dinners and some of the people that I was getting a chance to sit down with and talk to are things where if you look back and you think, gee, like, could I foresee myself in this situation like 10 years ago? The answer would be definitely not. So I don't want to get into details of what they were, but there was some fun stories there that I did not expect, and I still remember a lot. But I will say I also got stuff I can say is it was extremely enjoyable trying to talk with the creator of Tetris, Alexei.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. That was really fun because when we first met up with him, he had the grumpiest expression on his face. It looked like he wanted to be anywhere else but there. And then we get outside and we just started talking about stuff, and Audie was there with me, and he brought up how his mom was like Norway's Tetris champion of like 1991 or something like that. Something from back then. And that completely made him like light up with excitement, and just talking about that era again, watching him sort of come alive. And he said so many things in that interview, and you could tell the PR was like looking at each other like, this is weird. Especially when we asked him what his favorite Tetris was, and his response was unexpected. He was kind of like, I love the Tetris with the little with the people shaped as the Tetris blocks, and then they kind of come together, and it's like, wait, are you talking about like erotic Tetris or something here? Or? So yeah, fun stuff there. But since you were talking about the studio visit with Tom, though, I think the studio visit that I enjoyed most was actually when I got to visit those guys in Runcorn that did Onrush. Because
that was pretty decent, right?
Because those guys, I've never been in a studio that was just that open, of just like, you can see anything you want, talk to anyone, look at everything in the game. We will show you everything. And that was an absolute blast. And filming that whole thing. And alas, I also got to see the PC version, which never actually shipped, but it was looking really nice, which is a shame that got canceled. But that was a really fun trip, and those guys were just awesome up there.
So Alex, I'm just thinking back to 2018 Gamescom.
Oh. Yeah, with you. Where we had a lot of fun back then.
We did, and we sat down for the NVIDIA RTX 2000 launch, and I just remember looking at you agog. You were literally, your jaw was
That was
open.
your first conference thing, Alex. I remember that.
It was completely, and I haven't been at many since because, I got hired at DF and then this thing called
Pandemic.
COVID, pandemic. So we haven't gone back then, but that was so much fun being there with you, Rich. I mean, the fact that Rich also came out was great due to the NVIDIA launch essentially at that point. Because the normal day stuff that was like, John and I could have covered that other stuff really well.
Typically, when there's a new GPU launch, they have these things called editors' days. They don't really do them so much now, where they do the presentation to the public, then you get a deep dive behind the scenes. So that's the main reason I was there, so I could comment a bit more authoritatively about the new products when we actually got them for review. But that was fun because it was the three of us there, and it was really great stuff. And,
it was awesome.
It was really interesting seeing you interact with all of the developers working on raid-facing games at the time. And also, it's like, oh, look, over there's Steve from Gamers Nexus, which I think you were a bit starstruck as well.
Yeah, I didn't actually walk up to him that day and say hi. I also said hi to Ryan Shrout, who didn't really remember me when I met him years later. Sorry, Ryan. I know. You didn't, but it's okay. I'm easy to forget. And then who else did I see that day for the first time? And I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, that's when I also first met Tom Peterson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was great because he was working for NVIDIA back then.
And the 4A guys, or guy.
And the 4A guys, or guy, that was Ben Archer there, which was also really awesome. Also 2019 with John, because I was just chilling with John that time when we went to Gamescom. And I had the embarrassing story where I forgot to register as press beforehand.
Yeah, I think we can tell that now. It's been enough time. We went from the hotel, and I was driving my car, and we parked in the Gamescom parking lot. We were literally we crossed the street, walking up to the Gamescom entrance, and then I was like, "All right, get your registration stuff
lanyard out.
Or what? Get this thing out because we got to go show it to the people at the desk." And you're like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" It's like the thing, the registration that you had to do to come, and he's like, I didn't do that." And I was just like, uh-oh.
But the moral of the story is that somehow it all worked out. Everything was fine, and John and I had one of the best really times.
And the people were very helpful at the front desk. They helped us sort that really well. So everything turned out great in the end.
So nice.
So it was no problem.
Did it help that you can speak fluent German?
Oh, I'm sure it did.
It definitely helped, along with a little bit of... winking
he did the Alex charm came out in full force.
Really?
I might have charmed.
That was the first time I experienced the full brunt of Alex charm in action. I was in awe. I was starstruck. Just like, my God, this is incredible.
Yeah, I'm interested in your sort of reminiscences about the Series X.
Oh yeah, John.
We went to Microsoft March 2020.
That was probably one of the coolest trip, I would say, in the end. Because man, they really showed a lot of cool stuff there, and just seeing a new console for the first time before most people had seen it. I think the most memorable part there for me has to be when we were just before dinner on the main day. They come into the room, and I can't remember who it was, but she had her handbag. Walked up to us, and we were that was great. We were actually talking to Phil at the time about stuff, and he's like, "Oh, this is good." And we turned around, and she pulls out this white rectangular console out of the bag and says, "So this is the Xbox Series S," and this was months before the thing would be revealed, right?
Yeah, at least 6 months.
At least 6 months, and during that 6 months, then there were rumors flying everywhere that people wanted us to comment on. And we're just like, we can't say anything, but it was just, this is oh my gosh, that was the longest sort of embargo or kind of thing that I think I've ever experienced, where it was
the embargo had no date on it.
Yeah, it was just
the NDA had no date. Actually, it did. I think it was the end of the year.
Yeah. Or exactly, something like that.
But that was basically, the reveal of the Xbox Series S to us was so good that we were saying that they should do it in the event, whatever launch event they had. But basically, it was reach into the handbag, bring out an Xbox Series S, and it was wow. And I instantly fell in love with it just because of that reveal, but just because it was it was an actual console, right?
Yeah.
Because, obviously with the form factors of the machines being so outsized, there is the sense that consoles aren't what they once were, which was, the ultimate expression of a lean, efficient device. It was never about best of the best hardware back in the day, right? It was about, basically a mass market device. And that's exactly what Series S is. And I loved it as soon as I saw it. And I thought, wow, this is really good.
That was
reveal,
effective.
the handbag reveal was
That was
great.
really effective. That was pretty fun.
I do also look back at that event for potentially throwing you under the bus there by saying over dinner to Phil that you weren't a big fan of Game Pass.
Oh, I think
And to be fair to Phil, he basically said, "Give me 5 minutes with John. Let's talk Game Pass."
Well, I mean, to be fair, I use Game Pass more in 2022 than I ever had before. So, I definitely did make use of it now. But it was fun chatting with him about that stuff. And
he wanted to reassure you your physical games wouldn't be taken away from you.
Oh yeah,
Which I
They
think
come to your house and burn your collection. Microsoft.
yeah. His knowledge on classic gaming turned out to be more impressive and vast than I
astonishing.
expected. And I was like, wow, okay, you really know what you're talking about. And we had good chats about that stuff. And that was also the night when I got to chat about SSX and the Dreamcast version being made. If you recall that. So that was with Kate Rayner, actually.
that's right.
Because he had worked on all the SSX games back in the day.
I didn't know she worked on that.
Helped
That's cool.
architect all the engine technology behind them. And, so we were talking about that initial Dreamcast version that was canceled, which was different. The PS2 version uses like Bezier curves to generate the terrain to make those really smooth slopes. And they were doing like a more traditional method on Dreamcast, but that ended up not getting that far, I guess. And it just became a PS2 launch title, and they kind of pushed forward from there. And I gathered that, talking about SSX Tricky then and some of the changes, it just seems like some of the changes just kind of happened due to the need to target multiple platforms more than anything else.
Yeah.
That was the triple head
Yeah.
one, right? GameCube, Xbox. And,
Which I've always thought was interesting because they made the FOV narrower and tricky and changed a lot of the way the particles and lighting and effects work. So it looks a little bit less, it looks less good to my eye than the original SSX. So, but I think it's just more platform agnostic. So it was easier to run. But yeah, so many good times from back then.
Absolutely. So, Kemosabe, you've got a wealth of answers to that particular question, but I'm sure there are many, many more. I mean, I was at both of the Sega New Challenge conferences where they revealed the
I'm
Dreamcast.
envious of that one. That's amazing.
That's cool.
The problem is it was so long ago that many of the details
Fuzzy.
I've just completely forgotten about them. I do remember going into the Sega building and it's like, okay, there's the architect of the Dreamcast hardware.
It's
like, wow.
Didn't you guys like experience Yuji Naka like getting very angry at like a French journalist or something?
Yeah, sure. Yes, basically some preview materials for Sonic Adventure had been leaked, and the guy whose publication leaked them was in the room, and yeah, he wasn't happy about that.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, that was a pretty fantastic. Series of events there.
Quite very exciting.